Hey guys, welcome back to more real estate relationship drama stories. In this video, my parents literally stole my house and gave it to my golden child brother. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is a petty revenge story. So I was going home by bus, I should have taken the train by the way, one evening and had the misfortune of finding a seat between two people. The way this bus was, one row has 2 seats aisle and the other row had 3 seats. I sat in the row between 2 people and they recognized each other and started catching up. They went to university together and had not seen each other at all. This was going to be at least a 45-minute drive given the several stops and traffic. It was uncomfortable for me as they were talking across me and I just needed some quiet. I know this is public transport and all, so I asked them if they would like to switch seats and they both refused. So I put on my earphones and tried to shut them out, but I couldn't given that one party had stale breath. I was listening to a song and I decided to sing out loud. Loud enough that they couldn't get to hear each other, then they stopped talking and I kept quiet. They started talking and I started singing again. Anytime they would talk, I would sing. It went on for a few minutes and then they stopped talking altogether and I had a smoother ride home. I did not care if someone would record me, I was just too irritated. And yeah, ripe stars, if you have watched until here and enjoy the petty revenge stories, then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because we are getting closer and closer to 130,000 subscribers. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is the title story, which is titled "Parents Stole My House, Gave It to My Golden Child Brother Because I'm Single and Deserve No Family." Before I can get into the details of what my parents did, I feel the need to give you all some background on my family and our dynamic. I have an older brother, Kyle, that my parents never hide from either one of us that he was the favorite child. He had always gotten better things than I did for birthdays and Christmas and always was given more freedom to do things that he wanted. He would come home as a teenager at like 3 AM totally drunk and my parents did not bat an eye, but complained that my room was a bit messy. When I told them that they treated him better than me, my mom would just gaslight me and tell me that she treats us the same and I just wanted to throw a fit and get my brother in trouble to be nasty. I knew what was right in front of me and Kyle did too, because he knew that he could get away with treating me like garbage and then get away with it. He also stole money from me, video games that he would then sell, and just anything else he wanted to do. If I tried to tell our mom, she would just chastise me for trying to get him in trouble again and insist that he was a good boy. Our father did not gaslight me, but instead straight up told me that since he was older it meant he was entitled to more than I was, claiming it was that way since olden times with thrones going to the firstborn and I just had to deal with it and stop being jealous of Kyle. I would hear at least once a week, "Mark, you need to leave Kyle alone," when I would end up the one bruised from him hitting me. Things, believe it or not, got worse when I was 16 years old and decided to tell my parents that I was gay. Looking back, I should have kept my mouth shut and thought ahead to the horrible reaction that I was gonna get. Kyle had multiple girlfriends during high school and I was sick and tired of being asked by my parents why I was not more like him with the girls. I explained that it meant I had no interest in not just girls but anybody. At that point I was basically dead to my parents and my brother decided it would be funny to constantly call me a freak and make me feel horrible about myself. I won't go into too many details about the dark mental space I was in for years, but I will say that I don't even remember all of the 2 years between me telling them and graduating high school. Once I was 18, they did not see me as their problem anymore and told me to get out of their house. Kyle at that time was living at home with no job and actually no diploma. After a few suspensions for being caught drunk and high on campus, he finally got caught trying to sell on campus and they expelled him. Still, he was the golden child in my parents' eyes. To them, the school had it out for him and did not appreciate him. My dad figured school did not matter and he could eventually get a job anyway. I had good enough grades to get into a college, but with no money or anywhere to live, I ended up getting a job instead and thinking maybe college could come later. After years of saving up, I managed to buy a mobile home. I was taking online college courses at night while working during the day. Once I moved out, I did not hear from any of my family as they didn't even want to be associated with me anymore. The most I heard of was things about Kyle that I was getting from Instagram via people we both knew. He was out partying and just doing whatever he wanted to without a care in the world. I'm sure still living at home and being doted on by our mother and enabled by our father. More years passed and I got my degree and managed to get a better paying job with easier hours doing accounts receivable in an office. I did not change where I lived because the mobile home was just a cheap option and big enough that I could really enjoy my space. Even if I had friends over, it was big enough to hang out with them, and for the first time I actually did have some good friends. In the past nobody wanted to really go against Kyle and hang out with me much. But on my own, I found some good friends at both my jobs and outside work. Then my parents ended up coming back into my life in the worst way possible. So I came home from work and my entire home was just gone. Those things are pretty big and cannot be moved without some serious equipment. I knew somebody would have seen something, so I started asking around and got the name of the company on the side of one of the trucks that showed up to do it. They assumed that I was moving, but I told them that I had no idea what happened to my mobile home. It was just gone. I called the company and at first they didn't want to tell me anything, not until I started to threaten them with police and lawsuits. They gave me the address of where they had moved it to. So then I drove about 45 minutes away and saw not only my home but the family that had left me years ago. I was beyond angry seeing them and that they were responsible for it. It was worse than if it was some random person that had stolen it, but my own family who probably had to have stalked me and learned when I would be gone in order to take it away from me. Me, what the hell is going on here? Mom, Kyle needs a place to live. Me, that's all you're gonna say? You steal my entire home with everything in it, and when I finally find it, the only thing you have to say is that Kyle needs a place to live. Father, don't speak to your mother that way. You don't see your family for years and then you yell at them. Me, I have not seen my family in years because you all decided that I was not a part of this family my entire life. Mom, your brother had some problems with work and could not afford rent anymore. We saw that you had this nice big place and it was perfect for him. He has a wife and child to support. It turns out that Kyle did have a wife and kid who, from what I could gather, are just as bad as he is. Me, I don't even know what to say to you right now. Even after you dumped me out of your lives, you still wanna let Kyle just have things that belong to me. I paid for this home, it's mine, and you don't get a say in who lives in it. Father, listen here, your brother is actually gonna get married and have a family someday. You don't need space, since you're not going to have a family. You decided that you would rather spend your life alone. That is your choice, but there are consequences for that. You don't deserve a home if you're not gonna get married and have kids. I thought after all this time you might have decided to be normal, but I guess not. Me, I'm done. There's no talking to either one of you, and the fact that Kyle is not even here to do this himself says a lot. I walked away because the more any of us said, the more upset I got over the whole thing. I was just going to get back into my car, drive away and call the police to tell them what happened. They had stolen it from me, and at this point I was not their family anymore, so I didn't care if I got them in trouble for any of this. As for Kyle though, I learned that what really happened was the same old crap as usual. He had gotten a job and got caught doing drugs and got fired. As for where he was during the entire fight with my parents, he was off scoring and getting himself even more drugs. The police told me I could file a report, but it would take a little time before they could recover my house for me. Plus, I would need to sue my parents for the money in order to get the thing moved back onto my property. I wish the law made things a little bit easier, but I couldn't do anything else about it. I did a mix between couch surfing and sleeping in my car until the case could actually get put in front of a judge, since my parents were claiming they owned the mobile home and were just allowing me to use it. I got documents from my county in Texas showing that I owed it, which I presented proving that it was mine. My parents were now struggling and trying to use the same old excuse they always had, claiming that my brother was entitled to it because he was older and I was just being selfish. The judge actually got mad, which I didn't think happened in court. I thought they were normally very poker-faced and even-tempered. He told my parents that nobody had the right to steal my property and they should be the ones worried because what they did was a serious crime. Only at that point did they start to worry and realize that they might have done something really bad. This was not petty theft. Sure, it was cheaper than a house, but a mobile home was not cheap, not to mention all my things that I had inside of it, items that I learned for the most part they just dumped. So then I pressed charges against them and they got in some serious trouble by the end of all of it. Kyle got sparred after they all insisted he didn't know about it, and I couldn't prove that he did. even though I always knew in my gut that he had knowledge and a part in the entire thing. My parents faced serious legal fines and my father ended up behind bars for a little while, and they had to pay me back a huge amount of money for all my things that got dumped. Not to mention transporting my home back to my property and the pain and suffering they caused me from not having a home for over a month. To this day, I'm sure they see me as their freak of a son and Kyle as the golden child, no matter how badly he screws up. I don't care, since I decided that I'm never having contact with any of them again. They are not my family. And here, ripe stars, if your parents literally stole your house, what would you have done if you were in OP's situation? Surely you would not have forgiven these awful parents, right? Let me know in the comments. The next one is a shopping malicious compliance story. So I used to work at a supermarket, and at 9 AM on a Saturday the following went down. Me, good morning, would you like a bag? Customer sarcastically, no, I'm gonna carry all of these by themselves. It may have been the underpay, the rude tone, or the fact that I was just so tired of customers being nasty, but I decided to go along with it. Me beaming, okay sir, no problem. I then proceeded to scan all of his shopping and charge him. The man paid and stood there blankly staring at his groceries for a moment before looking at me. Customer, where are my bags? Me, oh I'm sorry sir, I thought you said you were going to carry them. Customer angrily, well obviously I cannot carry all of this without a bag. Me, oh okay, well in that case. I then proceeded to go through the usual single-use or reusable bag spiel, and then wouldn't you know it, we were out of the bags he wanted, so I had to call a manager over to bring some more bags to me, which always took ages in this supermarket. The customer then had to dig out his wallet and card to pay a tiny amount for some bags, and then I handed them to him with a smile and receipt and watched while he bagged his own groceries, scowling the whole time. Normally I would scan and bag, but as he didn't want bags to start with, I did not offer and he did not ask. All in all though, a 5-minute transaction took a good 15 minutes and he never pulled that with me again. I have no idea what he thought would happen while he watched me scan everything and pile it up in a very obviously non-bagged heap, but hey, he said no bags. And the next one is a malicious compliance story from school. And by the way, let me know in the comments what you think about malicious compliance versus revenge stories. Which ones do you prefer? To be honest, I prefer the revenge stories, however, the big problem is there are way more malicious compliance stories, and especially new ones, than revenge ones. Anyway, this one starts like this. So this just happened today at school, it's still fresh in my mind. We were in algebra and we were taking a test. The teacher was out of the classroom for a bit and someone asked me for the answers. Now, I had secretly hated this kid for almost a year because he had destroyed my $210 phone and only paid me back $20 and said, hopefully this will be enough for a screen protector. So anyways, it turned out he had skipped a question, so he accidentally had about 75% of the questions answered in the wrong box, making them all wrong. He asked me to erase them for him so he could copy my answers because his arm hurt. I was just about done with mine, so I finished it and erased his, but instead of giving him my answers, I turned my paper in. He now had 5 to 10 minutes to answer about 30 questions. The teacher then walked back in while he was pleading with me and asked what was going on. I told him that David was trying to copy my answers, no regrets. Edit, getting a lot of comments about how he broke my phone, so here's the story, I'll try to keep it brief. We were at a youth group that our church does, I'm Catholic, and I was scrolling through all my photos to show to one of my friends. I scroll past one of David looking very less than good. My friend then starts laughing and tells me to go back to that picture, so I do, and he starts dying laughing. A few more people came over to see what was happening, and one of them was David. He sees the picture and just snatches my phone out of my hand and runs into the bathroom. I am banging on the bathroom door and telling him to give me my phone back. He runs out of the bathroom while I'm screaming at him and holding onto his arm. He then just slams my phone into the ground. The screen was completely shattered and the home button did not work. Edit number 2, people are now calling me a bully, but I have a few more things to say about David. He is a stereotypical rich kid who doesn't understand how people have to pay for stuff with their own money, and he also broke my laptop 2 years before. And my dad had to buy me a new hard drive. He also broke my cousin's lamp twice and his parents buy him everything he wants. The next one is titled The Big Car Revenge. I submerged my car on a flooded road outside my apartment complex a few years back. I did not realize it was flooded, turned into the street doing about 30 to 35 miles per hour, and splish splash I was taking a bath. The street was constructed in a U-shape, with there being a large bowl where the water gathered. Unfortunately, there was only a small storm drain on either side of the road. I documented the scene, took videos of that day and then videos a day or two later when it flooded again. Witnesses at the time told me they had lived in the area for years and it flooded every winter. I then sued the county, provided them with ample evidence, the cost of repairs, the loss of value in the car, loss of wages as my only means of transportation was damaged for a few weeks, as well as the cost of a rental car and the cost of labor. They attempted to say that the streets were designed to withstand a 10-year flood, and as the day in question was heralded as the storm of the century for my region, they said it was an act of God. I quickly countered their claim with video evidence of the street flooding a few days later. I let them know that it was not as substantial as the day I wrecked my car, as the water had been almost covering about 1/3 of the fire hydrant you can see in the video. Children were literally swimming across the street. I won 80-some odd % of my claim. They did not want to go to court over the issue, as they would have to pay more lawyer fees than what they had already paid and could very well likely wind up paying a good portion of the claim anyway. Fast forward a few months and it floods again. I see a guy in a similar situation as mine. He drove into the water and effed his car up. I jot down my phone number and my previous claim number, make him a copy of the form used to file suit against the county, and tell him the situation. I tell him to contact me to be a witness if things got that far. I let him know that I had contacted the transportation department hours ago and they never showed up. They did not detour the road, they did not close it due to flooding, they did not open up the drains. They knew of the issue hours before he wrecked his car. A few months later, wouldn't you know it, the county repaired the road and added proper drainage. And the next one is titled Revenge After the Job is Done. So a few years after I started my business, I was asked to clean up and optimize a number of PCs in multiple locations, as well as set up some forms and templates for a new client who owned a local restaurant. The work or labor, apart from little travel, was performed over the space of a month due to scheduling conflicts and school holidays, but on completing the last of it, the client confirmed verbally that he was happy with all I had done and to go ahead and send an invoice. I duly emailed an invoice for a sum just in excess of £400. I waited for payment, never heard anything, sent reminder emails, called and left messages, but no response. Eventually, a couple of busy months had passed and I met the client by chance in the local supermarket. On asking why he had not paid or been in touch, he said that all the PCs were as bad as they had been before I had started and that he had tried to contact me with no success. As my landline and mobile phone had caller display as well as answering services and there had been no emails, I knew the latter was BS, and as any PC user knows, a system can easily go back to pot if the user bad habits don't change. So I contacted a local debt collector, gave him the details, printouts of my call logs and post-invoicing emails, and he took them to the restaurateur. On his return, his words were, "He is not disputing the invoice, he is saying that the work was not done right, so it's his word against yours." I queried if it was worth taking the guy to small claims, to which the debt collector said, "Even if you could prove that he confirmed he was satisfied with the work, they might insist you get his computer back to their pre-invoice state again. Do you really want to spend more time doing that?" Of course the answer was no, so I stewed it over in my mind and came up with a plan. At this point it was late November, so creating 2 throwaway email accounts in female names, I got in touch with the restaurant to book a large party for Valentine's night the following February. I put it down as my husband's surprise 40th birthday party, confirmed that my husband's sister, and CC'd her in the message with the other throwaway, could not make the journey north but would happily pay the £10 per head deposit as her share towards the night. Of course, as time went on, the ideas grew arms and legs. The numbers attending increased until the owner suggested he would reserve the whole restaurant for the evening and they would happily arrange the seating to suit us. But could I ensure the deposit was sorted ASAP, please? Of course, I confirmed that the sister was a scatterbrain and that I would ensure that check was with him very soon. He emailed the sister using the CC address and she confirmed it had been posted. To keep him on site, I asked for a proposed menu in advance so that I could send it to all the attendees for pre-ordering. Naturally, they were delighted that they would know this, as it makes their life much easier. Consequently, the numbers for all 3 courses were emailed in, with a few fuzzy eta variables thrown in for good measure. Needless to say, by the beginning of February he was getting quite antsy about there being no sign of the deposit, but I reassured him that the sister's check must have been lost in the post, so she would send another one by special delivery if they could ensure someone was there to sign for it. If I knew the owner lived about 25 miles away and the restaurant did not open till 5 PM, so he would have to come in very early and hang around waiting for it. So, a week before D-Day, and he would obviously had enough. He emailed in a spat saying that they had turned away numerous inquiries, had no deposit and could no longer hold back on taking other bookings. This time I did not bother replying, my part was done. My wife at the time and I were booked in at another restaurant close by for our Valentine's meal, after which we took a walk past the restaurateur's business premises to see just 2 cars in their parking lot, one of which was his. I'm not sure how much he must have lost out on that night, but knowing his prices I would bet it was significantly more than the £400 I had invoiced him. Of course lessons were learned by me too, get written or email confirmation of job satisfaction for one, and not letting new clients go unbilled for too long was another. Naturally, I had no hesitation letting all and sundry know how he had behaved either, so he was blacklisted or forced to pay upfront for any work by IT and other professionals I knew locally. And the next one is titled, Should Have Treated Me Right. I currently work at a drug/alcohol residential treatment center. I used to do the same thing somewhere else though. The pay sucked and the commute sucked, but my coworkers absolutely rocked. They were worth the crap pay and 50-mile one-way commute. I was always on time, I never complained about anything. I did my job well for the most part, and when I screwed up I would always take responsibility and fix it. Same with my work bestie. However, my boss liked to pick on us. She would come into the nursing station just to yell at us and tell us about how she doesn't trust us, and she loved to remind us about how much she did not really need us. One day after a particularly bad abuse session, I've sent HR an email about her behavior, one of many emails I've sent. And they told me to go F myself. It brought up all those memories of getting bullied in school and no one did anything about it. My depression and anxiety got so bad I came pretty much close to ending myself. But then I stopped and said, F it, I'm a nurse. I can get a better job with better pay and better treatment and a closer commute, so I did. I quit the job and that's all I did. I wrote the most bland 2-week notice I could and I sent it to HR, management and the nursing department. That same day, 2 other people quit. And during those 2 weeks, 3 more people quit. And in the month since I got my new job, and a total of 8 nurses quit. Now, staffing is so bad that my boss had to move into the facility to live there and be on site 24/7, all because she was mean to me and my friend. She has a sick husband at home and she does not even see him anymore. And to make it even better, they had a mass firing at our sister facility, which is much closer to my home. They have far fewer patients. So I joined an agency and get sent there weekly to collect more than $400 a pop for doing next to no work on a 12-hour shift. So now they are paying me to scroll Reddit and wear track pants just because they need a warm body there and they cannot say anything. So that is my petty revenge. Don't F with nurses. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much and I will see you again tomorrow.